Hey everybody, it's your old pal Steve Moore here, owner of Run More, this fabulous brick and mortar running shop located in Westminster, Maryland. We have a brand new shoe from a brand we've actually never reviewed on this channel before. It is the new On Cloudsurfer Max coming out in summer of 25. I can be real with you because I'm always real with you fine folks. We carried On at my old location a million years ago. Like, they were still a baby brand and we were still a baby store. And like, if you watch some of our like real old stuff, our old shop was like the size of a shoebox, and we had a bunch of stuff that we no longer carry and some stuff that's carried over. And this was a brand that we had that we actually let go. And you know, there was obviously a huge uptick in On sales the last couple years, and we were quietly on the sidelines. I think at the time for us in like 2015, 2016, 2017, those kind of years, like their stuff was priced higher than a lot of other brands. It didn't quite perform, in my opinion, as much as some of the other brands. And like, we had a lot of exchanges and return. It just became like a brand that I wasn't 100% satisfied with. And so we stepped back, and you know, perhaps to our detriment, the brand had really kind of figured a lot of stuff up and has been trajectorying in the correct direction. And we are now excited to kind of bring them back in and start to see how they perform against some of these other great models on our wall. So this is the first shoe that I've put on from On in many, many moons. The Cloudsurfer Max, some of you know it from a previous name. It used to be called the Eclipse, and actually we've seen a lot of things from On coming from now into the next 12 months. They're going to be sort of renamed and rebranded and trying to tighten up a little bit. And like, quite frankly, like, it's not just an On thing. You see that from brands. We start kind of pigeonholing this like Surfer Pro Max. Like, there's only so many different variations of words, and it gets super complicated. So I think they're just trying to tighten things up a little bit and make it easier for the consumer to understand the hierarchy of each shoe. So this is the Cloudsurfer Max. This is a high cushion neutral shoe. And we're gonna get into some of the specs here and talk about what makes this shoe. But before we get ahead of ourselves, do me a solid if you haven't already, like and subscribe to our channel. It's a fun, free way to support us. And if you stick around to the end, you'll find out how you can save 10% on a Cloudsurfer Max. So let's get into some of the nitty-gritty specs on the new shoe. It's a $180 performance max cushion trainer. And on the men's side, in a 10.5, it weighs 12.2 ounces, and in a women's size 8, it is 9.73 ounces. This features a 6mm drop from 37mm down to 31, and its upper is very nice. It is a lightweight engineered mesh upper with a knitted tongue. Its midsole features a nylon speed board, double layer of Cloud Tech Phase for a soft and smooth ride, and their proprietary Helion Super Foam for maximum cushion. So as I mentioned, On has tried to position themselves with like a bunch of different models that make it very clean to get from point A to point B, whether you're going from like an everyday casual shoe to more of a performance racing shoe. I think that's one of the other things, like in the last couple of years, you're seeing them, people are looking for more of them on the performance side. Like, it helps when you've got the Goose who's rocking Ons out there and really doing a good job of sort of getting the younger demographic involved in the product. And like, oh, I'm coming in and I know that brand. I've seen them on professional athletes and like really good professional athletes. It certainly helps. Actually, just as a really side note, it's kind of interesting, like there are much bigger brands that haven't quite captured that market yet. Like, I always think it's interesting, like really, especially on the track side, it might not be their forte yet, but like you never see a hoka athlete, but you see On athletes now. And I think that kind of helps with younger kids coming in. So kind of a roundabout way, I think one of the things they were trying to do with this shoe was get away from the older demographic. You know, I would say of all the brands we don't carry in the shop that people come in and ask for, On leads the way. And specifically, like, people come in and ask for the Cloud Monster. And I think what we've seen in the last couple years is that brands that were making shoes that were really geared towards the runner got picked up by the mainstream. And like the Cloud Monster being like On's monster double-decker bus high cushion shoe for like everyday long runs and all those like long day type stuff, it started to become sort of the shoe that even the casual walker, and like no knock on them, like this, like the people who were walking around the airport, like your kid's pediatrician, like they were wearing the Cloud Monster. And like, I think we've seen that with other brands where they were trying to make a shoe that was for the running public that were getting picked up by like the walking community, and it made it uncool for the runners. So in my opinion, I feel like the Cloudsurfer Max was them trying to find a shoe that kind of almost goes side by side with the Monster, but a different demographic. Like, you know, they're both super high cushion. They both have like a softer feel compared to a lot of stuff from the On brand, but this is definitely a much more runnable approach. And even like if you're checking on their catalog and their taglines, like for the long run, not for the long day, not for like the heavy standing day, like for the long run. And it has much more of that glidey sensation where it doesn't just feel like a high cushion shoe. It definitely, even you can kind of tell like the way that they're angling their pods here, that it has a much more flowy feel to it. So I think they did a good job, because when you side by side with it, if I'm going for a long run, this is the shoe that I would pick. And if I was going for an all-day standing day, like the Monster is the one that I would pick. So I think there's enough differentiation there that it helps you line up as a consumer of what type of model you're looking for from this high cushion family from On, because it can get a little bit, it kind of gets tough in there. And I will say, like, it's been a while since I've put some On shoes on. And I will say, like, one of the things that, like, you know, it's a terrible joke that I always make of, like, they really should call Hoka On Cloud, because that's what feels like an On Cloud, because I felt a lot of their shoes were kind of stiff and not all that cushy and sort of loud when you ran in it. Like, I don't necessarily have that with this. This feels smooth. It feels cushy, not overly marshmallowy cushy. You know, this doesn't feel like you're wearing a New Balance 1080 or something. Like, it still feels like there's a little bit of firmness to it, which I like, while being much softer than some of the other stuff in their family. Like, there is like a really nice separation of church and state there between what you're looking for like an everyday wear and something you're gonna rock for a longer run. And I always do kind of complain, like, if I'm going out and doing like a super long run, I love to kind of push the pace mid-miles in my long runs. Like, I've always loved to do that, and stuff that's too soft bums me out. I feel like it's a wasted energy. I'm sinking in the shoe, and like, I know there's people that like to use a long run as like their LSD day, as like a nice recovery run and such like that. It's an easy plod. Like, that's not necessarily how I like to think of my long runs. And so when a shoe is too soft, yes, it might feel a little better in my body, but I feel like I'm so sluggish in it, like I'm in a quagmire. And this is that nice, still has a performance-y feel, but still has a high cushion vibe to it as well. I think they did a great job of straddling the fence on that. I think one of the other things that sort of surprised me with this shoe, well, two things really. The fit was different than I expected. I think one of the things, you know, I'm actually recording this with one shoe on. I'm like Happy Gilmore's caddy. I've been dealing with just horrible bunion issues, and like, I did my long run yesterday and my feet are super angry today. I always, and maybe it's just my way I used to think back on them, like, they just look like they're gonna be narrow, right? They just look like they're gonna be much tighter, but I've been trying a bunch of stuff on lately, partly to try to feel my foot out, partly because I've been running a bunch more miles again, so I have the opportunity to go back and visit a bunch of shoes that like I didn't give a full chance to run a lot of miles in. It actually fits nice and wide. Like, it's really surprising me how much play I had on the width of this, comma, I had to go up a half size. And not just because my foot's angry, I just felt like, honestly, not even where my bunion is, I felt it more up here, that it was just a pinch small. So I actually rounded up. And that's not necessarily all that uncommon. I would say right now, like, you know, like 18% of the shoes I'm wearing, I am bumping up to a 12, and the rest I'm an 11.5. This is one that I did go up to a 12. So yes, the width is there. Even on the 11.5, the width was there. I just needed to go up to a 12. So keep that in mind with your sizing. But otherwise, it's soft and it feels nice and smooth. And those are the two things that like I was kind of hoping to feel with this shoe, and I got both. And also, like, yeah, it weighs a decent amount. You know, this is kind of a heavier shoe for some of the shoes in that category, but like, on the long run, you don't really notice it. You know, again, I think they did a nice job of trying to find a shoe that's runnable, that's high cushion, that has some pop to it, that you can still also look stylish in, quite frankly. But you're not gonna feel like you're rocking in the Cloud Monster. You're not gonna get like the guy at the airport who's like, hey, same shoes. Like, there's nothing worse than that if you're like a true runner guy, to be like, oh man, for frick's sake. So I think they did a nice job with that. And again, much quieter. That was always the other thing I felt with Ons, is like, I could hear somebody, those things just slapping away, not necessarily the vibe on this. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the new Cloudsurfer Max coming out in summer of 2025. They're out now. And if you wanted to pick up this fine product, we'll have a link down below. And if you enter promo code WATCHMOORE, one word, WATCHMOORE, like my last name, you'll save 10%. We'll ship it out for free. And if you're in the greater Westminster, Maryland area, stop on by and say hello. There's a good chance you'll catch me while we're here. Happy running, happy summer, and we'll see you around town. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for watching. Click the videos on the screen to learn more about some related content.